Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
On today's episode, we are going to identify the most likely first loss of the season for every team in the CBS Sports post-spring top 15. So Trey, let's start at the top. Let's start with number one in their ranking, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say they probably won't lose, but I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm actually going to say at Tennessee on October 15th. Tennessee might end up being overrated, but this is a good situational spot for them. Alabama would be 6-0 up at this point. They would have just gone on the road at Arkansas, and then they'd be home for the big showdown against Jimbo and the Aggies right before that. So Knoxville is desperate for a marquee win like this against their third Saturday in October rival. So it could happen.
I am going with the same one, Trey. You gotta pick somewhere. There's a greater than 50% chance that they're going to lose at some point. It is pretty darn hard to pick one, though. I mean, it's hard to go undefeated, Mike. Come on now, right?
I mean, I don't know. I think that's debatable. Yeah, I think it's debatable whether there's a greater than 50. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That wasn't the question posed to me. I don't need to be greater than 50% to give my answer. But
yeah, fair enough. But anyways, I feel like you have to pick against going undefeated. It's just so hard to do. And Tennessee has the offense that's maybe can do it. Hendon Hooker's just one of the most underrated, if not, because he's right there, like statistic wise, he's right there with Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. I mean, he's maybe just a hair behind, but doesn't get probably as much respect as he should.
Okay. Well, I am. We have the option of saying they won't lose a game, and so that's going to be my pick here. I just think it's more likely that they go undefeated than, trying to pick which game that they'll end up losing if they do lose.
That makes sense. Yeah, the way you come at it from that angle.
All right, Trey, what's next?
Yeah, we got number 2, Ohio State. And as of now, they're a double-digit favorite in all their games, but not necessarily all cakewalks. I mean, Notre Dame week 1, Wisconsin to start conference play at Sparty. And then they play at Penn State. That would be the game that I would pick, but ultimately I think they're too good. I'm saying they're going to go undefeated. I know we still have to see how their defense responds this year. That's a question mark, but I was thinking about at Penn State, probably a whiteout game. But I just don't trust the Nittany Lions offense to keep pace with the Buckeyes offense. I think their defense is great, but might not be enough on the offensive side, even though they bring back their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm going Ohio State goes undefeated too. There's plenty of games that they could trip up, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, at Michigan State, at Penn State, Michigan. But again, I just think them going undefeated is more likely than any of those. So that's my choice.
All right. Well, I'm going against you again here, Mike. I'm going to say they lose. I mean, they lost last year to Michigan, and then Michigan ended up getting doing pretty well in the Big Ten title game, so that doesn't look as bad. But I don't know. I just feel like it's so hard to go undefeated. Ohio State does have some concerns. Defense, maybe offensive line takes a little while to gel after losing some pieces. I'm really splitting hairs here trying to find something because they're really, really good.
I mean, losing would not be a surprise at all, of course, losing a game.
Yeah, at some point. Exactly. It's just hard to pick a game. I'll say at Penn State. Penn State plays them tough. And then in Happy Valley is even harder. So, yeah, I think Penn State will probably be better than most people think this year, but, they can do it.
Okay, going to number 3 on CBS Sports rankings, we've got Georgia. They are at least a 2-touchdown favorite in every single game as of right now. I do think they'll lose one, but it's really hard to pick which one. They got
3
Oregon.
Straight undefeateds for you, huh?
That's how I'm starting out. You got Oregon, Florida, Tennessee, at Kentucky. They could lose one of those. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
I think I'm playing the odds here and picking undefeated.
Yeah. I hear you. No, you're probably making the smart choice as far as a betting decision here, but I'm just sticking with my guns, and I have to pick a loss. It's so hard to go undefeated. So I'm going to say they lose Week 11 at Mississippi State. Mike Leach's squad, Mike Leach, known for pulling off some upsets in his day, can come get some surprise wins. He's got a great QB coming back, Will Rogers. It's going to be Leach's third year at Mississippi State, and if you kind of look back at his previous tenures in his other schools, the third year is kind of usually where it started to take off a little bit for him. So, the air raid can cause some trouble for some teams that are even more talented than they are. So, yeah, Mississippi State could get them. I think they're gonna be pretty good.
I'm with you. I'm taking them. November 12th, your birthday. Georgia would be 9-0. And the other thing is, I like to look at the situations for the heck of it, because Georgia will have just faced their rival Florida and then Tennessee in the 2 weeks leading up to it, and then now they have to go to Starkville. So, right now before summer, I'm kind of liking Leach's boys a little bit. I think you mentioned Will Rogers. I think their defense might be pretty strong. I mean, I reserve the right to adjust before the fall, but as we sit here today, I like them. Be a tough game for them to win, of course, but that's the spot we're picking.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Moving on to kind of a surprise ranking here, I guess, at least is my opinion. Number 4, we have Oklahoma. So for me, I'm going to go week 6. I'm going to say they go down in the Red River rivalry. Say Texas trips them up. This game's pretty much always close. Throughout the records, doesn't necessarily matter. And Texas is going to have, some amazing talent to work with on offense in particular. And a lot just rests on the shoulders of Quinn Ewers. If he's legit, then, Texas could go in there, maybe be favored in this game. I don't think that would be a big surprise. But and can the defense get a little bit better? But they don't. Even if they just stay pretty much where they were last year, they were neck and neck with them. So I'll take the Longhorns. I think they're most likely first loss for OU.
I disagree with most likely, just because I'm reluctant to do it, but mainly because I'll believe it when I see it with Nebraska. But I'm a Nebraska fan. I have to say Nebraska, September 17th. Right now, look at last year. Nebraska nearly beat them on the road with Lincoln Riley. And then Oklahoma right now, they're only a 4.5-point favorite on FanDuel. There's a lot of unknown with both Oklahoma and Nebraska. OU obviously has better talent, but a lot of new faces on the staff and the roster. How can they all gel? The same could be said for the offensive side and the offensive staff on Nebraska. But so really, it's going to come down to who can blend together the new faces. But on the road in Lincoln, rivalry, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going with Trey. I think it's pretty likely that OU is going to lose one of that 4-game stretch early in the season when they go at Nebraska, K-State, at TCU, and then Texas. I feel like they will lose one of those. Texas probably being the toughest game there, but it comes last in the sequence, so that's a pretty big disadvantage. Nebraska. Even if you disagreed with that FanDuel line of 4.5, even if you said it should be OU by a touchdown, I think I would still pick Nebraska as the most likely loss, just because it comes first in that line of games.
Comes first in the order. Well, I hope you guys are right.
Well, I mean, to be clear,
now
I would pick OU to win.
Not picking it.
That's not the question I'm being posed.
I hope you're right, though. Still,
but a touchdown or less underdog is not a shocker. So, all right, this is the most surprising ranking on this whole list. I think number 5 is CBS has Baylor. This is not our ranking. CBS has Baylor. So whatever. But the most likely loss to me is an easy one. Week 2 at BYU. Not an easy place to play. I really like BYU this year. Jaron Hall at quarterback. I think he could break out. FanDuel currently has BYU favored 1.5.
Yeah, that's got to be the pick. The spread's going to be so close. Second game of the season. And BYU, I like BYU too. They're second in the nation in returning production. So they should be, better this year. Baylor loses, a decent amount, so they could be a bit worse. I think they'll maybe get revenge from last year's loss.
Yeah, last year was competitive, and BYU at that point had some significant injuries, especially on defense. So, this is an easy choice. Baylor's going to have a tough one at BYU. Should be a good game. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, for sure. Number 6, we got Michigan, and they have a very, very easy start to the season. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the beginning of their schedule there. Non-conference is Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. So feel pretty good about 3-0, even home to Maryland.
That's bad, man. That's bad.
Likely 4-0. The first potential option I see is at Iowa, and that's my pick. Iowa is always solid. It's on the road. Michigan, very well could be less than a touchdown favorite. And you could argue that's the second most difficult game on the schedule behind the Ohio State game.
Ohio State.
But I doubt that Michigan will be undefeated by the time they reach Ohio State. So I'll go with Iowa as the first loss.
I agree. I think that's a clear and obvious choice there after their first 4 gimmies. You kind of
How dare you call Maryland a gimme? That's a little strong, but okay.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maryland, no. Okay, Maryland's. Is it at Maryland or
No.
You know?
No,
Okay,
it's at
so
home.
It's gonna be tough for them.
They'll be a big favorite, yeah.
Yeah. You might think Iowa, really? Michigan beat them 42-3 in the Big Ten title game last year. Why are they picking that? Why are you guys picking them? Well, that's year to year, things change so much. But also the last time Michigan played at Iowa was a few years back, and it was a 10-3 game. I think it could be like one of those. This is the way Iowa does it, especially at home against we've seen them take down top teams at home routinely. They can make it ugly, and Kirk Ferentz just has a way of giving them a chance at least. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. Week 5 at Iowa.
Yeah, we all agree. I'm not like super confident in Iowa, but revenge game. It'll be. We talked about Michigan's first road game. Not always easy playing in Kinnick. I mean, after Iowa, I guess you might be looking at the Penn State game in Ann Arbor, but I just think Iowa might be a little tougher spot situationally.
Yep. All right, all in agreement there. Let's move on to one who I bet you we're going to have some different answers on this one, guys. Number 7 on the top 25 was Texas A&M. And for me, I mean, they have some challenging games in the first part of the schedule there. Maybe not elite until you get to week 6, but that's what I'm going to go with. Week 6, you got at Alabama. I mean, that's just very, very hard to do that. And of course, that's a game that everybody's looking forward to now.
Yeah.
Some coaching rivalry-ish going on. But the 3 weeks prior, I do have to mention that they have Miami, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. I mean, all good teams that's going to give them a run for their money. So they could easily, it'd almost be surprising if they won all 3 of those. But I'm going to say they do, and they just, get tripped up in Tuscaloosa.
All right. Well, you alluded to that 4-game stretch. The first one is Miami. I think they're going to get by Miami in Kyle Field. But I'm going to say Arkansas will get them in the neutral site game in Dallas. KJ Jefferson, he's primed to have a strong year. The Razorbacks are kind of looking to move up and get a little more respect in the SEC. Winning this game would help them.
This was, I think, at least so far, the most difficult game, or most difficult, team for me to peg, because you got those games 3 through 6. The way I did this is I assigned probabilities for Texas A&M winning each game, and I just simulated the season a couple thousand times, and it was like almost equal to be all 4 of those games as the first loss. So like all of them are reasonable choices. Ultimately, I kind of came down to the first one and the last one, Miami and Alabama, and I just lean towards Miami. I like Tyler Van Dyke. I like the new coaching staff. I think they've got a chance to go in there and pull off the upset.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Good enough. Now we go from probably the hardest one so far to the easiest one. Number 8, Notre Dame. You have to say Ohio State week 1. They're a 2-touchdown underdog right now on the road. Yeah. They have a new face at quarterback. There's some new stars on defense, starting the Marcus Freeman era. I mean, we just don't know if they're going to have the horses to match strides with Ohio State's offensive firepower.
Yeah, it's the game I'm most looking forward to week 1, but yeah, it's the easy choice. Gotta take that. Ohio State.
Yep, Ohio State, of course.
Okay, number 9 is Utah, and another game I'm looking forward to in week 1. They play at Florida. Very intriguing game. I think we know Utah is, they're going to be Utah. They're going to be good. They bring back Cam Rising, Tavion Thomas on offense. They've always got a solid defense. Florida is a total wild card, and one of the big reasons why is Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Really don't know what to expect from him. People seem to think really, really highly of him. He's very talented. This spread right now on FanDuel is, I think, somewhere around a pick 'em. So I think it's the most likely first loss, even though it's just kind of a toss-up game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the last one was easier to pick as far as Ohio State's a big favorite, but this one is still an easy one to pick. Like, you have to pick this one as the first of a loss because it's essentially a toss-up game. You could think Utah's going to go and win that game, but it's still the most likely opportunity that they will lose a game. So yeah, at Florida, you don't know what you're going to get from Florida. I think Billy Napier is going to have them improved, and I think they'll be probably pretty solid. But yeah, you gotta go with this one.
Yeah, it's the Urban Meyer Bowl, Utah and Florida, and
Yep.
then the Utes they have to go cross country into humid Gainesville. Got to take this game.
Yep. All right, moving on to number 10, we have Arkansas, and we kind of touched on some of their games already, but for me, I'll say Michael picked this one for A&M's first loss, or maybe it was Trey. I can't remember. I'm saying Texas A&M. I'm gonna say they lose week 4 to Texas A&M in Dallas, in Arlington. Their first 2 games are actually pretty tough. They play Cincinnati and South Carolina, so they'd be happy just to get 2-0, no matter how they look to get to that point. Both those games though that I just mentioned, they're both in Fayetteville, so they do have the home field advantage against Cincy and South Carolina. And then they have a easier third games like Missouri State or something. So I think they'll make it to 3-0 going into that A&M game, and I have them going down to the Aggies.
I mean, looking at all these schedules is really fun, just because it made me also realize that Arkansas, their first 7 games is about as tough as anyone out there. You alluded to like the A&M, and then after that they got Bama, Mississippi State, at BYU. But I just got to play the percentages. I'm going to go with the first game, Cincinnati. I know they have to replace so much from the playoff team last year, but Luke Fickell is still there, has developed a strong, solid program. Arkansas is not going to be that big of a favorite, I wouldn't think.
It's kind of interesting that they play Cincy and BYU. You don't usually see, like 2 very quality G5.
SEC like West is tough enough. Like, why you got to schedule those teams? but
then they have Missouri State, and I don't know what their other matchup is, but
yeah. Well, the YouTube viewers can see it on the screen right now.
Yeah,
so
I know. Not coming to me.
I think starting out 2-0 is kind of a coin flips. But I'll say they do, and I'll say their first loss, like Ryan, is at Jerry World against A&M. A&M's just got a big talent advantage, and I think they're going to be improved enough at quarterback to get the win this year.
Yeah.
All right, number 11, Clemson. So this one was kind of tough for me looking at it. I think when I looked at the schedule, at Wake won't be easy. NC State at home won't be easy. But I'm going to say they are going to lose, and it's going to be at Florida State on October 15th. It'll be their second straight road game. They'll have played at Boston College the week before. I think Florida State's going to show a little bit more life in 2022, and Norvell will get them more respectable.
Okay, I'm going earlier than you. I'm just going to go to the first tough game on the schedule because I think they'll lose one at least somewhere along the way. I'm not going to wait all the way till at Notre Dame late in the season. I think they'll have a loss before that. So give me, the first tough game at Wake Forest. Right now, the spread is Clemson -10. So, decent sized favorite, but wouldn't be crazy. Wake Forest, brings back Sam Hartman. So maybe DJU is still struggling on the other side, or maybe they've made the switch to Klubnik and you got a true freshman in there. They got a shot.
Yep. Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines of you, Mike. Don't see Clemson making it that far unbeaten, but I will say they make it a week further, and they lose to NC State in week 5. It's in Clemson, but I like what NC State's got coming back this year. They're gonna have a pretty good squad. I think they'll have an advantage offensively with Devin Leary as the quarterback. I think he's underrated nationally. And then, like you said, Mike, I'm not sold on Clemson's QB situation. Who is it going to be? If I was Clemson, I'd hope it's Klubnik. I mean, just we've seen a whole season of DJU just not be great. So I'd hope that they would move on. But I just don't see Clemson getting back to that level of being elite with that offense. So and the coaching changes. We'll see how that affects them. They have never really had to deal with that. So no Venables now. See if the defense suffers a bit.
Okay, let's go to number 12. It is Miami. I think this, pretty easy one to pick. They play Bethune-Cookman, then Southern Miss, win-win, and then at A&M. So that's got to be the pick.
At A&M it is. There's no doubt about it. Kyle Field, tough place to play. A lot of talent there for A&M. It's going to be hard. And looking at it more kind of closely here. A&M's defense, I think, could actually cause some problems for the U up front. And I don't know if the U's got especially the talent at the receiver position to really kind of threaten that defense. So I think it could be kind of a tough one for Van Dyke, even though I do think he's good, but he's going to be in a tough spot, I think, in this one.
Yeah, this is a very tough spot. Clean sweep at A&M, September 17th.
All right, let's move on to number 13. We have Ole Miss. This one's harder. This one's definitely harder because this is about as easy of an SEC West schedule as you're ever going to get. The toughest of their 4 non-conference games, and this is their first 4 games, is Georgia Tech. Maybe arguably one of the worst Power 5 teams out there. So that's a very easy non-conference for them. Then they do draw Vandy from the East, and you actually want to go to Vandy. You don't want to waste a home game on them. So going to Vandy is good, and then they host Kentucky. So that's then you got the SEC West, which is tough, but that's a good start to them. So it could be a fun year down there. I'll say though the first loss will come week 8 at LSU. By that time maybe things we started to click a little bit better here for Brian Kelly under his first year, and they do have some talent, and so if they can just kind of work those kinks out at the beginning, they'll be a pretty solid team. So, and they'll be battle tested too. They have some tough games early in the year. LSU does.
Yeah, that's true. But when I look at it, I agree, Ryan. The schedule is very favorable, but the first potential losable game is October 1st against Kentucky. I know it's at home. Like we said, I'd probably pick Ole Miss, but it should be a fairly close spread. And I think, Will Levis is getting a lot of offseason love. Stoops has done a good job. Ole Miss will be breaking in Jackson Dart. Maybe it's Altmaier, whoever, blending in the transfers from the Portal King, Lane Kiffin. So I'll say Kentucky maybe gets him.
I agree. I'm going with Kentucky. I do worry about Kentucky's receiving core. I know Levis is getting all this buzz, but losing Wan'Dale Robinson, losing Ali, we'll see. But
all they had.
I know, but they should be, only a small underdog here, like Trey said. So
yeah,
I think that's the best shot.
All right, one of the biggest wild cards of the season, number 14, USC. I mean, if you know what USC is going to do, you're lying, because they're about as hard to predict as anyone. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 6-0 going to Utah, or if they were 3-3 or 4-2. It's just unbelievable. They have a 3-game stretch in September that it's not easy, but it's not difficult. They play at Stanford, home to Fresno, and then at Oregon State. So the way I'm looking at this, I think they're going to get by Stanford, but then they could get tripped up in one of the next 2. I'm going to go crazy and say they lose to Fresno State in week 3.
Wow, okay.
Jake Haener led an upset. He led an upset at UCLA last season. They lose Kalen DeBoer, but hey, they bring in Jeff Tedford. He's a respectable head coach. And maybe SC's kind of still figuring out the whole roster. Fresno State's offense could give trouble to the SC defense, which we don't know if is going to be better or not yet. So that's the wild one I went with.
No, that's fair. This one is very tough. And yeah, if you're USC, you wish you hadn't scheduled Fresno State. You wish, a few years ago, whenever you had scheduled it, it was like San Jose State or something like that. Because with Jake Haener, that is definitely not a gimme. I decided I was down to at Stanford in game 2, at Oregon State game 4, and then Utah in game 7. I narrowly decided to go at Stanford. Stanford returns a ton of production, should be improved. Tanner McKee's a good quarterback. So maybe USC at the beginning of the season is still gelling with all the transfers. That's my pick.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Michael at Stanford because, like Trey was saying, you have that 3-week stretch where the teams are all about even-ish, the Stanford, Fresno, at Oregon State. There's not a huge gap in as far as like the win probability. So if you're going to say they're going to lose one of those, you probably should just go with the first one. If you say they're going to go defeated, then you just got to go to Utah. So I'll say Stanford. Week 2, they beat them last year in Los Angeles. Stanford did when they won 3 games. So I know USC is going to be drastically different, but I think Stanford will be a lot better. So there's no reason. And USC generally does have trouble up on the farm. It's not an easy place for the Trojans to have success. I think the last time they won there was 2014, looking back. So it's a challenging place for them. So, yep, Stanford it is.
Okay, last one. Number 15, Tennessee. So let's throw out Ball State and Akron. Those are two of their first three games. Assume those are wins. So the first two tough games then are at Pitt and home to Florida. I think it comes down to those two. And I think the spread in those games is going to be pretty similar. Tennessee, I would predict, is a small favorite in each one. So like Ryan was just saying, I'll go with the first one. I'll go at Pitt as the most likely first loss.
Yeah, I was just looking at FanDuel, and it looks like they're only about a 4-point favorite. So, I mean, that's the way I had to go. I mean, so I got to go Pitt. Like, Keaton Slovis could still lead a pretty good offense even without Jordan Addison. And Tennessee's defense is kind of the weak link right now, so we'll see if they're improved at all. But Pitt could still maybe expose them a little bit.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say they get by those two teams. I think Tennessee's going to be really pretty solid. I think the defense will be better, and I just think Hendon Hooker is just so good that he gives them a pretty big advantage going up against these teams until you get to week 7 and you face a QB like Bryce Young. So I say they lose week 7 against Bama, even though it's I think that's the most likely. Even though I think Tennessee has a shot to go ahead and surprise them there, but I just think that with Hendon Hooker. 31 TDs, 3 picks last year, 600 yards rushing as well, nearly 10 yards per attempt. Those are just not – nobody's really talking about that nationally, about how good those numbers were. I mean, those are like Bryce – I'm telling you, those are Bryce Young, CJ Stroud numbers.
It was crazy efficiency for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, that'll do it for this episode of the College Football Bros. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up, and we will – see you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.